Jersey City is experiencing a dire public school funding crisis. This tutorial aims to teach some of the fundamental facts at the core of this funding crisis and what it means for our students, our schools, and our community. My name is Bridget D'Souza. I'm a volunteer with Jersey City Together. This presentation is aimed to help those who know little or perhaps nothing about the funding crisis in our schools. Our hope is that you'll learn and perhaps be moved to get engaged in the dialogue for solutions. In late 2017, Jersey City Together's education team knew, in rough outlines, that our public schools were underfunded, so we endeavored to listen and to learn. Our team began hosting meetings where we invited parents and caregivers to share their concerns about what was happening in their schools. And we asked, if you could change one thing about your school or see one notable improvement, what would it be? What we learned astounded us. We learned about basic needs that are going unmet in our schools across our district on a daily basis. And we learned how pervasive these issues are. We learned that kids are sitting in ballooning class sizes due to teacher cuts. We learned that schools don't have full-time nurses because nurses have been cut, forcing remaining nurses to rotate between schools. We learned that the school climate and safety has suffered due to some security guards having been cut, with other schools not fully staffed, thereby increasing adult-to-student ratios to levels that lead to excess bullying and behavioral problems. We learned that the social and emotional health of our students is suffering due to cuts in support roles outside the classroom but inside the school, like crisis intervention teachers, guidance counselors, social workers, and other support staff who have all seen cuts. Meanwhile, sports and quality after-school programs that keep kids engaged, occupied, and supervised have also seen cuts. We learned that kids who may need extra support in math or reading are not getting the extra help they need because supplemental math and literacy support teachers have also seen cuts. We learned that parents are frustrated with the curriculum and feel it needs improvement as teachers are stretched thin with ever larger class sizes, impacting the quality of instruction they can deliver within the classroom. We learned about facilities issues, like many schools have broken bathroom stall doors, prohibiting privacy while our kids use the toilet. And we learned that most schools throughout our district lack potable water, and that the district has for years relied on a haphazard water bottling delivery system that can and does break down, rendering entire schools dry. We heard of kids leaving school with headaches and nausea due to dehydration. The list goes on and on. In short, we learned that our students' most basic needs are not being met, and how, we asked, can we expect our city's kids to thrive if they cannot even be given access to water and dignified shelter and amenities while in school? How can this be happening in Jersey City? To get at the roots of this question, we knew we had to better understand the funding paradigm. In 2018, the Education Law Center, a think tank that focuses on education policy in New Jersey and beyond, released a report that detailed specific issues with Jersey City's public school funding paradigm. The report highlighted numerous issues, but 3 points in particular are worth noting here. First, that our public schools are not adequately funded as measured by the state funding formula. Second, that as our city's economy grows, so does our city's obligation to fund its local schools. And third, that while abatements are problematic in Jersey City, because they don't pay school tax like normal tax-paying properties do, abatements alone are not the sole cause of our underfunding. A much bigger problem is what's called the local levy gap. But what exactly is a local levy gap? Let's look at that on the next slide. This graph is from the Education Law Center's March 2018 report, and it illustrates the local levy gap for the 2018 fiscal year for kindergarten through grade 12 in Jersey City. I've added extra callouts to help explain what the chart is saying. Let's break this chart down, and if you need to, please pause the video and take a moment to see what's going on at your own pace. This is, in my opinion, the single most important visual in the entire discussion. First, let's focus on the bar on the left. That is showing, in an ideal scenario, what full funding of Jersey City Public Schools would have looked like based on the state's education funding formula in 2018. The budget would have been $624 million in total, funded by a combination of state aid, which is the dark blue portion of the bar, of $255 million, and local tax revenues, which is the orange portion of the bar, of $370 million. Now let's look at the bar on the right, because that's what actually happened in 2018. The first thing to notice is that the bar on the right is shorter than the bar on the left, and that's because the bar on the right totals only $523 million. So in 2018, Jersey City Public Schools should have received $624 million, but instead only received about $523 million. That was an existing $100 million shortfall that our schools experienced in 2018. Now let's look deeper at this underfunding to see what's causing it. Our schools did in fact get the $255 million in state aid, which is the dark blue portion of the bar on the left and on the right. But notice what's happening with the local school tax, meaning the orange portion of the bar on the right. That is showing us that in 2018, Jersey City funded its public schools with only $117 million in local property tax revenue, but our city should have funded $370 million, as shown in the orange portion of the bar on the left. And this difference, the $370 million minus the $117 million, is a $250 million shortfall in local revenues to fund our local schools. The Education Law Center called this $250 million shortfall the local levy gap. But that's not it. There's more. We've had this local funding shortfall for at least the last 10 years. And over that time, the local shortfall has been so large that the state has been helping Jersey City by giving us extra aid called adjustment aid. That's the light blue portion of the bar on the right. But here's the rub. The adjustment aid is technically excess aid per the state funding formula. And when Jersey City gets excess aid, it means other towns and cities in New Jersey are not getting their fair share of their aid, meaning they're not getting their full share of the dark blue portion of state aid that we see on the chart here. And advocates in those towns and cities have worked to change this dynamic. They have petitioned their representatives to advocate for their full fair share of state aid, and they have made the case that Jersey City should not be getting excess aid, but should instead raise its own local levy and locally fund its local schools. Trenton lawmakers have responded and decided to honor the state funding formula and remove Jersey City's excess aid, meaning the light blue adjustment aid shown on this slide. Adjustment aid will be removed in phased increments over the next 5 to 7 years. The impact of this is shown on the next slide. Over the next 7 years, Jersey City will see its excess state aid go away, meaning adjustment aid is going to go away. We learned from Governor Murphy's recent budget proposal that Jersey City may lose $27 million in adjustment aid in 2019 alone. This cut in aid is part of an incremental, phased approach to remove excess aid from Jersey City. And over the next 7 years, it's estimated that Jersey City will lose a total of over $150 million in state aid. I should note here that the payroll tax passed by Jersey City's City Council in November 2018 can help make up a substantial part of our local funding gap. But even the most generous estimates say it will only make up about a third of what is needed from local sources. Let's take a moment to understand this in a bit more detail. We are currently $100 million underfunded. That is the fiscal crisis our students are experiencing right now. And we are about to lose $150 million more when our excess aid is taken away. This means that looking over the next 5 to 7 years, we have a projected total all-in $250 million local funding gap for our local public schools. The payroll tax is estimated to generate anywhere from $50 to $80 million per year, but it is only designed as a tool to offset state aid cuts. It will do nothing to address the underfunding we are already experiencing. And in the end, it will only partially cover the $150 million we are expected to lose in the coming years. How we cover this enormous shortfall of local funding for our local public schools is an issue that we are forced to grapple with as a community. Let's recap. Jersey City Public Schools are severely underfunded, and it's about to get much worse. Our students feel the impact of this underfunding every day. Jersey City is facing a dire fiscal crisis, and the community must endeavor to understand it so that we can collectively decide if and how we want to fund our public school system. Finally, a call to action for you, now that you know a little bit more about this underfunding crisis facing our public schools. Jersey City Together is a team of volunteers working together to educate and advocate in community. If you'd like to learn more or join us, please email education@njtogether.org. You can also learn more about our advocacy at www.njtogether.org/education. And finally, please share this video with your congregation, your school, your neighbors, and your family. Thank you.